Alright, so welcome back to the ancient world. Alright, so two things. Let's go over these real quick. So yeah, it's the 1 cost coin for buildings that cost over 4 coins. Okay? So it's not going to, you're not going to get a decrease in cost on buildings for 4 coins and down. It's only going to work for buildings that have like 5 coins and up. Okay? So that's what that means. Still, that's very useful. It'll come in handy, especially with the B deck, but I don't know if it's the best ability there is. I think I'd rather start with 4 coins like the Merchants of Merlin do in the beginning of the game than have that ability there, because, I mean, unless you're thinking that you're going to be spending more, buying, or should I say building more than 4 buildings, then maybe that would be. But that would also have to be from the B deck, because most of the cards in the A deck cost a maximum of 4 anyway. So, it's still not likely to be extremely useful. But, anyways, let's continue on. So then, the Ambrosia. Add 1 to a citizen's skill. Okay, I just got a little confused on citizen's skill. But it's referring to the numbers on your citizens. So, I might have mentioned that when you take an action with one of these workers here, and you have if your opponent already has, or one of your opponents already have one of their numbered workers on that location, and you put out a worker with a lower number, like let's say they have a 5 on that location, and you put out a 3. You're going to have to pay an additional coin for each for each number that's under the 5, okay? So, obviously, if that was the case, you'd have to pay 2 coins. Of course, if they had, like, for instance, their number 2 out, and all you had available was number 1, you could, for instance, spend 1 of these ambrosias to increase the number on your citizen's skill, which I guess is which is called citizen skill. These numbers is referring to. It's going to increase it by 1, making this number 1 here a number 2, and then therefore you won't have to pay the coin cost. Still, I don't know if that's extremely useful or a good way to utilize your ambrosia. Probably not the best way to utilize it, but maybe it could come in handy if you don't have a lot of money anyways. This can be a game that you're not getting much money in. So this is possible that this will happen in this game. You're not making a lot of money in this game, depending on cards, obviously. But that's still pretty interesting that you can do all that interesting stuff with the ambrosia. Now, obviously, that takes care of those 2 things. So let's go ahead and start talking about the cards now. Okay, there's a lot of cards to go over, so let's use this player board sort of as a location for these cards. And let's get a closer view as much as possible, so that way you guys can see to the best of the card exactly. Okay, so here we have this first one here, which I actually showed in a previous video, the Guild of Scholars, but I actually didn't talk about it. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about it. So I only talked about a couple as a demonstration. So let's talk about this one, because this one's a pretty cool ability. So when you buy the Guild of Scholars, you're going to get a knowledge. Okay, so you're just going to get one of these nice little scrolls. Okay, you're going to get one of those. That's what that means. And then you'll notice it has this little arrow pointed up, and it has a citizen-looking person on there, right? Well, that means you're going to get an upgrade of a new worker. So to understand this, let's grab one of the actual workers. How about yellow or green? Let's go with green, because I have green's player board out anyway. So let's go with green. Hold on just a second. Let's explain this. Okay, so you start with 2, 3, and you start with 1. Okay? So we have, these are the workers you start with. 1, 2, and 3. You have to wait until you can get workers with grow or the action grow or some obviously certain cards. Like for instance, this one. You have to wait in order to get these higher numbers, okay? What this is going to let you do is it's going to let you upgrade one. So it's not letting you gain a whole new one. No, it's actually going to do this. It's going to upgrade your lowest. So this one is going to go back into the bag, and you're going to upgrade it into this one. And so you're going to have 2, 3, and 4, which could give you an advantage over some players because they only have 1, 2, and 3, while you have 2, 3, and 4. So you'll have a higher number than them. If you get this in the beginning of the game, you'll have a higher number than them. But that does mean that when you do the action grow, or just simply get a new particular citizen, you're going to still get the lowest number. So you're not going to get this one anytime soon. The next one you're going to get is obviously the first one. But you're still going to have 4 workers regardless of the case. So basically, the Guild of Scholars is just giving you a slight advantage when placing workers down. Basically, that's all it's doing. It's not letting you get a new one. But that's how you understand that's how that card works. So Guild of Scholars is a pretty cool ability still, and it could be useful to make some of your opponents pay some money. Okay? All right. Let's put these out like this now. Okay. So here we have the Desert Caravan and the Warship. The Desert Caravan is actually a worker placement card. So you actually can place, once you build this, or should I say build this card and have a Desert Caravan basically in your location, you can place a worker on it as a worker placement area. Okay? And what you're going to get is you're going to get 1 coin for every food you have. So if you start with 3 food, the least you're going to get is if you place your worker here, you're going to get 3 coins, which is better than labor, which only gives you 2 coins. So that could be beneficial. And of course, at the end of the game, when you have 4 or 5 food maybe, or even more, you can get even more coins as a worker placement area for the Desert Caravan. And so that's how that one works. Okay, then we have Warship. Warship is really easy. It's going to give you an additional sword for your combat, which is, relatively easy. It's also going to, if you notice it has this eye on it, and this little symbol with a ship above it, which you can barely see. That is the Explore action, okay? So whenever you take the Explore action, you'll get to draw 2 extra cards, because normally when you take the Explore action, you get 5 cards. With this Warship, you're going to get to draw 7 cards instead of 5. That's really cool. Just for Explore, though. Okay? So that's what Warship does. And Desert Caravan. Let's move on. Okay, so here we have Crane and Trade City. Crane is going to allow Empire cards cost 1 fewer coin. So basically, it's just like this particular player board. If you start with the Architects of Amnite, and you're playing with this side, obviously, you have the ability to make Empire cards cost 1 coin fewer less, but it has to be, over 4 coins. This one is any card, Empire card. Any Empire card you buy, or build, I should say, is going to cost 1 coin less. So that's simple enough. Trade City. Trade City is really cool because Trade City is going to, at the beginning of each round, Trade City is going to give you an additional coin. So if you're only making 5 money a round, if you have this in your town, you're going to make 6. Basically, is that what that means? And then at the beginning of each round, you're also going to get 1 knowledge, which is really cool, once again, especially if you have that particular, especially if you're playing with the merchants of Merlum, because remember, their ability was you get to, no, sorry, not this one. Hold on. It's not this one. Actually, no. If you're starting with this one, sorry, my bad. If you're starting with the Unearthers of Umnock, you get to start with 1 knowledge, obviously, but you also gain an ambrosia whenever you gain knowledge. So, if you're gaining knowledge at the beginning of each round, you're also going to get an ambrosia token if you have the Unearthers of Umnock. So that's a really cool ability. But don't forget, this one here has a knowledge in the cost. So not only do you have to pay the cost of 8 money, you also have to pay one knowledge as well to get the trade city. And I forgot to mention that the other cards, are 2, 3, 2, and 4. Okay, and obviously Crane is going to cost you 3. But then that's not all, folks. You also have this additional bonus of possibly some extra points at the end of the game. If you have 4 of this green banner and 5 of this purple banner at the end of the game, you're going to get an additional 4 points for having the Trade City. So all in all, Trade City is a really good one to get. Okay, let's move on. All right. Town Hall is one of those, and then Distant Outpost. Town Hall is going to cost 4. Distant Outpost is going to cost 2. Now, Town Hall acts as another worker placement area. So place your worker down here, and you get this cool thing. Every time you place a worker here, you're going to gain 1 knowledge and 1 ambrosia. That is awesome. So it's better than taking the action Learn, which, you have to pay 3 coins just to get a knowledge. If you have this, you're getting a knowledge, and you're getting an ambrosia. That is awesome. Not only that, but once again, if you have that particular civilization, the Unearthers of Umnock, you're basically getting 2 ambrosia and 1 knowledge every time you visit this location. That is awesome. And remember, if you have the town hall in your town, same thing with, where was it? Desert Caravan. You're the only one that can go to that location. So your opponents, they can't go to the town hall unless they also have their own town hall in their civilization. So that's a really cool ability. Okay, Distant Outpost. Distant Outpost, you get to use this when you use the knowledge. So whenever you do the Learn action, okay? Whenever you do the Learn action, which is paying 3 coins to get a knowledge, that's called the Learn action. Whenever you do it, you can remove 1 coin from an army you own. So if you have the Distant Outpost, that is powerful. Because remember, if you watched my video, it can get pretty expensive using armies, for sure. It can be very expensive fighting Titans. And so this Distant Outpost could be quite beneficial if you're attacking lots of Titans. So the Distant Outpost is definitely one of my favorites. Okay, let's continue on. Some of these are really simple. Okay. Well, the trade ship doesn't cost a single coin, but it does still cost 1 knowledge. And the Scribe Guild here, it's going to cost you 3 coins. The trade ship is very easy. You get a coin at the beginning of the round. Okay, so you get an additional coin at the beginning of the round. And remember, if your card is damaged, as in it was attacked by a Titan, and it needs to be rebuilt, you're not going to get the additional benefits that those cards provide. Just remember that. So you might want to take a mental note that you'll have these cubes going up and down, at least on the money, anyways, on the money track here, anyways, or currency track, okay? And then, of course, with the trade ship, you're also going to get an additional arrow to help you fight Titans. That's cool. The Scribe Guild here is when you use the labor action. So whenever you use the labor action, you may buy 1 knowledge for a coin. So you get 2 coins when you go to the labor action, right? You could always use one of those coins to instead get yourself a knowledge, which is really powerful if you ask me, because it costs 3 coins usually to buy a knowledge. This one's letting you do it for the price of 1, and you're getting a free coin still, nonetheless. That's really cool. So the Scribe Guild trade ship are pretty cool. All right, let's continue on. Still got quite a few more just in the A deck alone. All right, so here we have the Walled City. It's going to cost 0 once again, but it does cost a knowledge. And then we have Highland Town here. It's going to cost 2, and it's still going to cost you a knowledge. Okay? Walled City is going to let you start with a coin at the beginning of your rounds. Same thing with Highland Town. It's also going to start with 1 coin as well at the beginning of each round. But here's where the two differ. Okay? Walled City actually gives you an additional army. So instead of having just 2 armies, if you have the Walled City in your civilization, you can have 3 armies. That's awesome, right? Highland Town is also better than another card we previously looked at, because this one is actually going to give you, well, if you have 1, 3, and 2 here, okay, if you have these 3, if you have the Highland Town in your town, and as soon as you get the Highland Town built, you automatically get the next lowest civilian or worker. You automatically get him right after. Of course, you're still not going to be able to utilize him until next round, okay? But you're still going to get him basically with the cost of this, for the simple cost of 2 money and a knowledge. That is cool. And this could be something you get in the first round even. But that's what that means. So obviously both of these are also really cool cards. So far, most of the cards we've gone over are just like almost what I would have to call epic. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, here we have the Moon Festival and the Shrine. The Moon Festival is going to cost 0 again. Another one that costs 0, but it's going to cost you a knowledge. This one that costs you 2 and a knowledge. Shrine. Shrine costs you 2 and a knowledge. And Shrine is very easy. At the beginning of each round, you're going to get 1 knowledge. That's what Shrine does. So it's okay. There might be something better out there, but still, that could be come in handy very often, getting to start with 1 knowledge at the beginning of each round. Okay? Then we have the Moon Festival here. This one is only for victory points. You'll get +4 victory points per set of 5 unique tribe banners. Okay, well that's kind of interesting. You'll get 4 points per set of the unique tribe banners. So that means you're going to have to basically have one of each. You're basically going to have one of each of the tribe banners, and then you're going to have to do it again and again to keep getting 4, 8, 12. Now, that may not be likely to happen more than a couple of times anyways, because even though you might have some tribe banners up to 6, maybe more, which doesn't do you too much good, there might be some banners you might only have 1 or 2 of anyway. And so the chances of you getting more than 8 points are not likely, unless, of course, you aren't able to get 6 banners of any particular color. If that's the case, you might still not come out ahead because of that, because it's still really good to try to get 6 of each banner, okay? But that's still an interesting ability, and it might give you some additional points. Okay, let's move on. Let's get a couple more out of the way before we end this video and continue in the next one. Okay, so these both cost only 4 money each. Here we have Steppe Farm and the Activists of Bol. Well, Steppe Farm is very easy. You get additional food with it, which is one of the ways you can get food in this game, obviously. And you also get an additional sword when you're attacking a Titan. That's what Steppe Farm is. The Activists of Bol is also going to another one of those cards that will give you an additional coin at the beginning of each round. It's also another one of those cards that lets you basically upgrade your lowest civilian here. So basically turning this one, the number 1, into a 4. Okay? So that's what the Activists of Bol is going to do when you obtain it. Or should I say build it. Okay? So that's basically what that means. And obviously, if you watch the beginning of the video, you already know that, because there was another card with that ability. Okay, so let's continue on. Maybe we can get 2 more out of the way. Okay. So here we have the Aqueduct and the Barbarian Camp. Each of these cost 2 money each. The Aqueduct is when you gain... So whenever you gain a new citizen, so like when you take the action Grow and you gain a new citizen that way, for instance. Whenever that happens, you're going to get 1 coin per food you have every time you do that. Of course, you're only going to do that maximum of 2 times anyway, but if you have a bunch of food, you could potentially get a few extra coins as an additional function. So that's kind of cool. And then we have Barbarian Camp. You're going to get to start with an additional coin at the beginning of the round if you have the Barbarian Camp. And you also may re-roll 1 die per attack. So every time you attack a Titan, okay, and you have a Barbarian Camp, every time you attack a Titan, you may re-roll a die if you don't like it, like it's going to do some damage to you. You can re-roll and try again for hopefully no damage at all. Or maybe getting the coin instead of the Titan itself. But you can only do it once per fight with a Titan. Still, if you have that in the beginning of the game and you fight maybe 8 Titans or 6 Titans, that could come in handy quite a bit. And maybe once in a while you'll get lucky and your reroll will be a blank side of the die. So we'll continue on in the next video. We still have several more in the A section alone.